Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Steven Universe Retrospectives. And today we're going to be discussing episodes 19 and 20 of Steven Universe, Rose's Room, and Coach Steven. And as always, let's talk about the odd numbered episode first. In this case, Rose's Room involves Steven wanting the gems to go mini-golfing. He's gotten access to $5 off coupons that he I don't want to say won, but acquired from purchasing this brand of cream corn. And pretty much he ate like 4 cans of the stuff, and each can comes with a coupon. And he thinks that with these coupons, he and the gems can go mini golfing. Unfortunately, though, the gems don't really have time for mini golfing. And in Garnet's own words, there's a dangerous artifact that has appeared in the northern hemisphere, and they have to go and retrieve it. So they unfortunately going to have to do a rain check on the golf. As such, they end up going off, and Steven decides, fine, if you guys aren't going to go golfing, then I have my own adventure to go on. And so he ends up playing a turn-based RPG called Golf Quest Mini. Think Final Fantasy if it was about golf. As such, Steven pretty much spends the better part of the day, evening, and overnight playing through the game, and he manages to make it all the way to the final boss, and his efforts end up getting him the secret ending. And so, as you do when you unlock a secret ending, you're just watching it intently. However, this is when the gems finally return, and they were not aware of what the heck Steven is doing, and so they immediately just start, interrupting him, wanting to talk to him, trying to engage him, which, yeah, I kind of understand Steven's frustration to the scene. There have been times that I've been, wanting to pay attention to a show or a comic or whatever, but people come in and say, hey, want to talk and so forth, and you want to be polite and nice, but at the same time, you're like, I'm kind of focusing on this right now. And unfortunately, the gems unknowingly are preventing Steven from paying attention to what's going on in the secret ending. And it makes matters worse. They end up showing off the artifact, which is this. It looks like this weird. I don't want to say it's a tiki head, so to speak, but essentially it's this artifact that when you hit a button on the top of it, it unleashes a loud shriek. And based on what we can hear Pearl's description of it, it's supposed to be able to send long range transmissions through noise. That it becomes important later. But bottom line, the gems are trying to show it to Steven, but again, he's trying to focus on the secret ending, and when Amethyst decides to show off its power by hitting the button on the top, it caused a massive quake in the house that ends up shattering the TV, which in turn stops Steven from seeing the secret ending. Of course, the gems are oblivious to this, and Amethyst thinks that Steven loved it, until he starts freaking out about how they don't get to, that he missed the secret ending, and how he never gets to do what he wants. He wants to go golfing. He wants to go golfing, but the gems don't want him to. Or he wants to play the game, but they don't want to see him to. What I do like is that as Steven has this freak out, the gems do look do look remorseful for having stopped him from enjoying the secret ending. So I do kind of like that. We didn't mean to do that. It was an accident. But in Steven's bawling, he says he wishes that he could have a place where he could just be on his own. And his gem reacts as it suddenly glows, and the door to the temple opens. Specifically, to his mother's room. Steven immediately is in awe and wants to go in, but the gems try to stop him, but Steven just angrily brushes them off, says that he's going to go to a place that's only for him and they can't follow, and thus he runs into Rose's room and the door closes behind him. And I do kind of like the design of Rose's room in this. It's just kind of looks all nice and friendly and sweet, as it's literally just made of all these pink clouds. And what's a nice little detail is, again, we've technically seen this before in a previous episode. In the Together Breakfast episode, we saw Steven briefly pass through here when he was sliding on that pole that was connected to the heart of the temple. So I do kind of like that. Again, it's a little added detail that you could miss that you would miss on a first viewing, but notice again when you're rewatching. So Steven, of course, is kind of in awe of the room, and it turns out the room has a little gimmick. Anything that Steven wants in the room, all will end up happening. As such, if he says, I want a bed will appear. If he wants a parachute, he'll get a parachute. If he wants a skateboard, he pretty much can just literally get whatever he wants in this room. And of course, he does use it to try and see the secret ending again. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't really help in the way of getting food. As he tries asking for a donut, and when he tries eating it, it just poofs away in a puff of clouds. So as a result, Steven says, "I guess I gotta go out for dinner," and the door reappears, and he goes back and he exits the temple. Only when he goes outside, the gems aren't there waiting for him, and it's seemingly nighttime. I say seemingly because while there are stars in the sky, they look a little painted on, I guess is the best way to describe it. And as Steven goes to the Big Donut to get donuts, Sadie and Lars begin acting weird. They begin speaking in unison, kind of speaking to Steven in strange, quick ways. And when they give Steven his donuts, they both literally just slide away and disappear. When Steven tries following them, they're seemingly not there. And that's when Steven runs into Onion, who seems to be acting just he's Onion. Onion does whatever he wants. So he begins further exploring Beach City, but no matter where he goes, things just seem off. There are lights on all over the town, but there's nobody there. He goes to Fryman's Fries, and he finds Frybo trying to serve him bits and seemingly glitching and putting the same fry bits down over and over and over. And when he tries going to the arcade, the lights go on their own. And when Steven tries actually seeing a bunch of people, they're all just frozen. And what I love is that they all look the way that the characters in the show look in the background from a distance. Only now it looks up close and just kind of feels like an uncanny valley. Not helped by the fact that Connie is there and is just repeating it was incredible line from when Steven and her first met. As such, things seem to be just getting more and more crazy, with Steven somehow ending up in the middle of the ocean and somehow standing like ankle deep in it. And as he says he wants an explanation, he's sucked through and ends up in front of the car wash that his dad works at. Thankfully Greg is there and Steven's able to talk to him. But when Steven starts talking to him for advice, he only makes sense for a little while before he starts going into ramblings too. And as he and Steven begin sharing donuts, Steven has a theory. Tries eating a donut, and it poops. Yep, he's still in the room. It somehow has created an entire town, and the instant Steven realizes it's all fake, it begins breaking down. As entire sections of the fake beach city just start disappearing one by one, and it's just like really fucking creepy and unnerving and disturbing. And as Steven runs away, he ends up falling into the void as enough of the town disappears, and he says, "This isn't what I want," and a little pink whale that he asked for earlier pops in and says, "What do you want, Steven?" And Steven says he just wants to be back with the gems. And as such, the room actually opens the real door and throws Steven out. As such, Steven apologizes to the gems, saying, "I understand. I guess I can't always get what I want, and there are things you have to do that are important." And in turn, the gems apologize that they made Steven feel this way, but they also state that they now have time to spend with him until the episode ends with them all going mini golfing. So, happy ending overall. But this also brings us to the next episode, Coach Steven. In this case, what's going on is that a transmission tower is active. Apparently, this is an old tower from the olden days, as we'll call it, and it originally was supposed to access communication from across galaxies, but now it's been acting on its own, and it's screwing with I'm just gonna say television. That's what Garnet says. And as a result, the gems need to take it down. And as such, while Pearl thinks that they need to take it down methodically with a plan, Garnet says they just need to smash it. And her solution? A fusion. In this case, a fusion between herself and Amethyst called Sugalite. Something that Amethyst is all for upon hearing. And Pearl tries talking Garnet down by saying, "Oh, come on, you guys get a bit hectic or crazy when you fuse. You should fuse with me." But Garnet ain't hearing it. And so, as a result, she and Amethyst fuse. And while Steven is, of course, excited about this, because, hey, new fusion, Pearl does look a little upset and even tries shielding Steven's eyes from Garnet and Amethyst's dance. As such, Garnet and Amethyst do successfully fuse, and we get the first appearance of their fusion, Sugalite. And yeah, design-wise, this Sugalite looks really fucking badass. She's got four arms that are connected at the elbows, 5 eyes, 4 of which are hidden behind a visor, like a little kind of an upturned nose, sharp teeth, hectic hair, and yeah, she's big. She's very big, even bigger than Opal. And her weapon of choice is a mace that's created from combining Garnet's gauntlets with Amethyst's whip. And so once Steven sees her, she's just like, what did I do? She's like just ready to impress him, which another little detail I like, all the fusions immediately know who Steven is and all immediately like him and kind of want to impress him in some regard. So of course Steven is, and so she said, and so of course Steven says, "Are you gonna use that to smash?" She said, "What's that's the plan? Where should I start?" And so Steven points her at the tower, and so she just starts smashing it with reckless abandon, which while Steven thinks looks cool, is causing a lot of rubble. One of which almost hits Steven. Well, actually does hit Steven, though in the case it's just a small bit that cuts his forehead. As such, Pearl, deciding this is too dangerous for Steven, decides to warp him away back to the temple. Although the instant they warp away, the warp pad ends up getting destroyed. So, they're kind of cut off. However, Steven is so inspired by Sugalite's example that he decides, I want to get strong too. And so he decides to form a little workout group with himself, his dad, Sadie, and Lars, with himself acting as the coach. However, when Pearl sees this and realizes that Steven's modeling after Sugalite's example, again, she's not exactly happy. If anything, she's a little disappointed, and which leads to an actually interesting song called "Strong in the Real Way," which is a nice little double-edged song because the singers for it are both Steven and Pearl. Pearl sings first, then it's Steven. Steven's side is mostly just him acting as a coach and trying to encourage Lars, Sadie, and Greg to get stronger, get better, and just overall improve. Well, whereas with Pearl's, it's more about her lamenting how she's not really an example for Steven, how she wants to be an example, and how she would love to teach him to be strong in the real way. As she doesn't really, since she's more, I'm going to say twiggy, she doesn't really fit the same strength quota that Steven seems to want to emulate. However, the exercise does seem to do some good, as the next day, Steven is his entire body is aching. And so when Sadie, Lars, and Greg come by for another workout, Steven can hardly move. However, Pearl is concerned that Garnet and Amethyst hadn't returned because she doesn't know the warp was destroyed. And unfortunately, that's when they begin hearing loud footsteps outside. And when everyone looks out to investigate, there comes Sugalite, who upon reaching the beach immediately screams, "I'm bored." As such, Pearl tries talking Sugalite down because, hey, by trying to apologize, saying that they had to leave because she was concerned about Steven. She tries to say, "I want to unfuse and we can talk this out." But unfortunately, the drawbacks immediately become clear as it turns out, Pearl's concerns were warranted. Sugalite is very much a problem, as when Pearl suggests that they should unfuse, she just tells her to essentially F off, and that she doesn't want to be separated again. She wants to stay. And unfortunately, the more Pearl tries to insist that she unfuse, the more violent she gets, to the point where she starts just smashing up the beach and just doing whatever she wants. As such, Pearl does try to fight Sugalite and tries to take her down, but again, unfortunately, Sugalite is stronger, and the more Pearl tries to fight back, the more Sugalite is able to get an upper hand, causing some serious damage. As a result, Pearl is knocked into the sand and has sustained at least some minor injuries, and she begins lamenting about how she's not strong, how she can't do this, how she's failed Steven, Garnet, and Amethyst. But Steven is able to get access to his megaphone and can encourage her, "No, you can do this, Pearl. You are strong. You're strong in the real way. You can take this," and this does manage to inspire Pearl and give her an idea. As such, she intentionally gets Sugalite to chase after her as she runs up the beach and up the side of their little hill/mountain where a lighthouse is. That overlooks their temple. And so once Sugalite reaches the top, Pearl jumps off, and as Sugalite's ready to hit her with the mace, Pearl intentionally shoots her footing, and as a result, it causes her to slide off the mountain. And while this doesn't initially hurt her, like I said, she threw the mace, and an object that goes in motion stays in motion, and it smacks Sugalite right in the head and causes her to poof, separating Amethyst and Garnet, who are both clearly overtaxed, with both of them being so physically aching that they can barely move. As such, Pearl is As such, Pearl is happy that she was able to successfully save them. She's all pumped up, ready to keep going. And Garnet does tell Pearl, yeah, you were right, we shouldn't have done that. And so the episode ends with Pearl and Garnet, no, Amethyst and Garnet just kind of lamenting as Pearl is pumped up and ready to go again. Sadie and Lars wondering what the heck's going on, and Steven telling them he wants 20 push-ups, so. Okay, first let's talk about Rose's room. What I like with this episode is that on the one hand, it's technically filler, but on the other hand, it's still, again, adding more to the lore of the show. In this case, it's just kind of showcasing more of the temple. And in this case, it showcases Rose's room, which again we did see briefly in a previous episode, and as such, when you do go back to rewatch these episodes, and if you go back and watch this after you've seen this, you do kind of pick up on the little details, especially in seeing the brief snippet of Rose's room and then seeing it here. I do like that about this show, how it likes to sprinkle in little details that become important for later episodes. It's just that your brain intentionally tunes them out the first time you see them, but then when they become important later, because you've seen them already, your mind recognizes them as like, oh yeah, I've seen that before. It's a nice little clever way of establishing things without really drawing your attention to it. I like stuff like that, and I like how they did that with The Room. And speaking of which, this episode is a very good mind fuck. It's very surreal and strange, as what I like is that The Room is essentially like a Lotus Eater trap without really being a Lotus Eater trap. The whole purpose of The Room is essentially, I'm just going to say, leisure activity. In this case, the entire purpose of The Room is just that for its owner to just get whatever they want, have some time off, relax, and so forth. And so Steven does at first just use the room for his own little benefit, get whatever he wants, just enjoy himself. But at the instant he says, I need to go out for dinner, the room decides to compensate by, instead of letting him out, it just creates a fake beach city for him. Because he said he needed to go out for dinner, and so it just created a place where he could go out too. And from there, what I love about the episode from this point onward is the sense of unease going through from the entire episode. You can probably guess early on that the entire beach city that Steven goes through is a facsimile, not the real deal. But seeing the little hints leading up to that conclusion is very interesting. There is just so much unease and clearly just things off about Beach City. Like I said, I mentioned how the stars in the sky look a little painted, as they all just look like dots that are up too close. Sadie and Lars are talking in sync and just sliding away. Onion being Onion, I honestly admit that might have just been the real Onion and he somehow got into the room. But then just seeing the Frybo glitching out as it keeps giving Steven Frybits, seeing the denizens of Beach City all frozen in place and stuck in their background faces, seeing Connie repeatedly saying it was incredible while her eyes are opaque. Yeah, I forgot to mention that her eyes were completely opaque. It's just like, it's very creepy, and it's not really and there are just a bunch of little glitches surrounding it that just keep you make you feel unease, dread, like something is off. And I do like that. It definitely keeps you creeped out enough. And while Steven does seem to get a small sense of normalcy when he sees his dad in the facsimile, again, that quickly falls apart too, as when Steven talks with him, while the talk does help Steven realize that he was being a little bit too hard on the gems, which I like. I do actually like that about the episode, that it does acknowledge that Steven's attitude was a little unwarranted, considering the gems do have a important job to do, and that they sometimes can't make time for him. That doesn't mean they don't want to, which I think is nice. At the same time, I do like that as the conversation goes along, Greg himself begins getting more incoherent, and it's that conversation that finally makes Steven begin to think, am I really out of the room? And the instant Steven realizes it's all fake, I do kind of like just how it breaks down, which in a way kind of makes sense. Because Steven just immediately yells out, it's a fakeroo! And so the room breaks down. Because, like I said, the room's whole purpose for existing is to give Steven what he wants. And he said he just wanted a place for himself to be alone. And so it created him for that. He said he had to go out. It created him a place that he could go out to. And so once Steven realizes the whole place is fake, and just is freaking out, the room just starts breaking down. Not just because it can't sustain the room, because this isn't what Steven wants. And so as Steven is freaking out, the room actually asks him through that little whale that he created what he wants, and Steven says he just wants to leave, and so it lets him out. I like that. I like just the way it progresses. It's creepy to see everything fall into place. It's creepy to see the room break down. But at the same time, I do kind of like that the room isn't doing this out of malicious intent. It's doing this because because it doesn't really fully know how to give someone what they want. At least not completely. It can give them an idea, but it can only go so far, which we'll see expanded on later in other episodes, which I like that. I like stuff like that. And another little thing that I find interesting is the question of the room as a conscious being, because clearly the room has some form of consciousness, especially since when Steven begins saying, this isn't what I want, and then the little whale comes in and says, what do you want? It's like the room itself is questioning Steven and asking what he wants, and asking, well, what do you want? If you can just tell me what you want, and I can give that to you. So I do like that, and I'll talk about my theories on this in a later episode. But needless to say, I think that there's a reason for this. Again, it's just a theory, and I fully admit I'm probably pulling it out of my ass, and I'm just grasping at straws. But it's an interesting one. I kind of like seeing where it goes. And like I said, I like the moral. I like seeing Steven apologize to the gems, and they in turn apologize for not having enough time for him. So again, happy ending all around. And as for Coach Steven, I like this episode not just for the reveal of Sugalite, who really does look like a badass fusion, who unfortunately after this episode kind of becomes Sir not appearing in this show because Nicki Minaj voices her, and from what I've heard, she's apparently a very expensive guest star. But what helps too is that this is the first episode where we also get some more about Pearl's character. Back in the Tiger Millionaire episode, we saw the beginning of Amethyst's character arc and how she can feel inadequate compared to the other gems, how she needs a release, and how she hates constantly being talked down to, how she feels like that she's not respected, always considered a screw up. And here we get in a little window into Pearl and her character dilemmas. In this case, it's a matter of personal strength, her own self-worth. Similar to Amethyst in some regards, but different in others. In this case, her self-worth comes in the form of her strength. And we see that reflected in this episode. While she does look down on Sugalite for being a brute, for being uncouth, for being uncontrolled, the thing is, as the episode goes on, she almost kind of breaks down. Because while she does look down on Sugalite for being kind of a bully, as time goes, you kind of see Pearl lamenting that despite the fact that she has the stronger moral character, Steven doesn't look up to her. He wants to form a gym to be what he considers strong in the real way, and it's based on Sugalite. And whereas with Pearl, so Pearl laments that she wants to teach Steven to be strong in what she says is the real way. In this case, strength of character. It's not just throwing your weight around and saying, you listen to me now. It's control, patience, restraint. And that's something I actually do like about the show, that it actually emphasizes that as real strength. Because something that they emphasize in later episodes, strength is not something. Again, this is something that they just emphasize, which, in my opinion, is a good one. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that puppy emergency. Anyway, like I was saying, she was just on the bed right there, so apologies. But like I said, one of the things they emphasize in the show is she wants in. Is strength is restraint, control. That fighting in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's just knowing when to fight, knowing when to throw your weight around, when to actually stand up. And I think that's exemplified perfectly in the conflict between Pearl and Sugalite. Pearl is the one that's arguing for restraint and control. That's opting to solve problems methodically rather than just throwing her power around for its own sake. Whereas with Sugalite, she is a bully in the purest sense. She is constantly saying, like, when we see her come back onto the beach after she destroys the tower, she's just like, I can do whatever the hell I want. I'm big enough. I'm strong enough. What are you gonna do to stop me? It's a very, like, that's just, it's the two conflicts that seem to be, it's an interesting conflict in seeing the moral side of things. Just one more second. Again, puppy emergency. But it's a very interesting angle to take things. But what makes it better is how Pearl is affected by this, because throughout the entire episode, she keeps arguing for a more logical standpoint, for restraint, for control, and methodical planning versus just brute strength. But no matter what's going throughout the episode, that mindset is looked down on. When Steven sets up his gym, he bases it off of what he learns about Sugilite and just kind of... Hold on one more second. She just wants to get out of the room. Hold on. Sorry about that. Chinny just wanted to get out of the room. Anyway, yeah, like I said, she keeps last time, I swear. She really does not like me vlogging. Anyway, like I was saying, Pearl keeps arguing for the restraint angle, for keeping things in line, and yet that mindset is continually looked down on. Like I said, Steven set up the gym off of Sugilite, and then when she actually goes up against Sugilite almost wins, and as she's getting beaten into the ground, she nearly gives up as she begins to think, I'm weak, I can't do this on my own. And that's I think the beginning of her own character arc. Compared to others, she isn't as physically strong. She's smart, she's tactical, but among the gems, she's not the strongest. She's kind of dainty. She's kind of the weakest. And you see that turmoil in this episode when she goes up against Sugilite. She nearly gives up, and because her methods were continuously looked down upon, and combined with Sugilite literally kind of beating her ass, she nearly does give up and think, I'm not strong enough, I'm not good enough. But it's only with Steven's encouragement that she finally realized, no, I am good enough, I can do this, I just gotta do this, I can do it my way. And so by the end, as with that extra bit of encouragement, she is able to find a way to take down Sugilite in ways that are not just, that's not physical. She does it by outsmarting her, which I think is a very interesting way and good way, which I think is an interesting and intelligent way to handle this. So I do like that, and it's again the beginning of Pearl's own character development throughout the series, as she last time, I swear, does not matter the dog, they do not like me vlogging. But yeah, like I said, it was finally by Steven giving her that last bit of encouragement, that extra push, that finally made her that finally allowed her to accept her own strengths and outsmart Sugilite in battle, which I like. I like that. And like I said, it lays the foundation for future character development for Pearl, as we see a bit more of her own insecurities, her own weaknesses, and how they can be built upon and improved and strengthened later in later episodes. So I like that. I like seeing that goes, and I think the episode handles it well and handles the progression well. So yeah, overall, I think these are both good episodes. Rose's Room had a nice little moral message while also creating a sense of unease by seeing the fake beach city that it creates for Steven and how it just is wrong. And the second hand, Coach Steven not only did well in introducing a new fusion, who, like I said, unfortunately doesn't appear very often after this, but also does well in beginning Pearl's own character arc and setting the foundation for future stories with her later on. So, overall, both a good pair of episodes. Glad I watched them. Apologies for Chindy continuously popping in and interrupting, but hopefully if you like puppies, that's good enough for you, and hopefully my reactions caused you some form of humor. So, yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and I'll hopefully see you next week. Take care. And sorry about the sweat. It's hot in here, so.